Man, do I love Far Cry, and of course, I love their characters. From their protagonists, to their villains, to their quote-unquote crazy funny characters.
Saith unto me, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David hath prevailed to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof.
But I've always thought there's been 2 sets of Far Cry characters that don't ever really get talked about very often. Those characters being Far Cry 3/Far Cry 4's side villains or supporting villains. So lucky for you guys, I all of a sudden wanted to go back to making Far Cry videos out of the goodness and purity of my heart. Hey man, you gonna tell them about the views? It was because of the views! Shut up, shut. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing Hoyt and Buck from Far Cry 3 to Far Cry 4's Paul and, wait, what's her name? Oh yeah, Yuma. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing why I think Far Cry 3's supporting villains are far better than Far Cry 4's. Just before the video continues, thank you guys ever so much for the support you've been giving me. It's so overwhelming and it's so incredible. I just thank you guys so much. Also, if you could like and subscribe with the bell on, I would seriously appreciate that. Thank you guys. So let's start the video by comparing Buck from Far Cry 3 to Paul from Far Cry 4, as they both start as your first side villain / support villain you deal with in each respected game. Let's start by talking about Buck from Far Cry 3.
So his name is Buck, and he lacks
To briefly catch you up, you meet Buck after tracking him down to a bar after being told that he has kidnapped one of your friends. The intro to Buck's character is near perfect, and let me tell you why. You meet and find Buck in some rundown bar, where we can take an educated guess that not the most civilized members of society like to drink here. Approaching Buck, you ask about your friend, to which he at first acts like he knows nothing about, until you mention who he supposedly bought him off.
Buck? Well, it's not my birthday. She must be Christmas.
I'm here for my friend, Keith.
Ah, sorry, doesn't ring a bell.
You bought him from Hoyt.
Ah, him. He said his name was...
You're hysterical.
Buck from the start has this strange aura of creepiness, or rather uncomfortableness. We can clearly see that he is someone who loves the chaos of living in the Rook Islands, and revels in it. From just this starting introduction, Buck tells the player exactly what he wants straight away. And he explains to you that if you get him what he wants, in return, he will give the player what they want. In this case, it's a knife that Buck seems to have some strange attachment to.
Find this for me. You score that, and you and I are even, Stephen. And Keith goes with you.
I've seen this knife before.
Knife? What do you mean, knife? That's just a fucking knife. It's art. More history in this than you and Keith's 4 arches squeezed together. That's my fucking fee, right?
Buck sends you on your way, and he goes back to his drink.
You want Keith back? Get on the goddamn boat, find out where the artifact's buried before someone else nicks it. And when you're back off.
From just this introduction alone, we learn quite a lot about Buck. One thing being that he's clearly attached to this strange knife. Another thing being that he clearly has no or little to no morals. And another thing being he is clearly obsessed with living in the Rook Islands chaos. Oh, you can also take an educated guess that he's Australian. Now from this intro alone, you feel instantly invested in Buck because the player already has a connection with him, that connection being your friend that you want off Buck. But at the same time, you can't help but feel creeped out by Buck's strange ways. The intro to Buck's character is completely fantastic. It sets up exactly what you want to know, and it also shows off just the right amount of Buck's personality. All while doing this without giving too much away to the player. Now, Paul's intro is actually really hard to find, because you could say it's here, where you first see Paul sat eating some lovely crab rangoon with Pagan.
The crab rangoon, right?
But Paul only says about 2 words in this scene, so we can hardly count this as meeting him or an introduction to his character. So when then is it? Well, if we fast forward to the next cutscene Paul's in, we kill him, so we can't really call that the introduction to his character. So I would personally say the introduction to Paul is right here, when you're first trying to escape the Royal Army's palace and you walk into Paul. Now, we can't actually interact with Paul yourself in this scene, but we can watch him, so we'll count it. In this introduction, we see Paul interrogating someone, first just acting like a generic and big bad interrogator guy.
You're Golden Pass, a terrorist, a bad guy, and I'm a good guy, which means that I don't really want to hurt you.
Blah 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 blah.
Now, the scene at first does just feel like your average Call of Duty interrogation scene. However, it becomes interesting when Paul's phone goes off.
Sorry. Hey, babe. Hey, listen, I'm in a meeting right now. I can't really talk. Yeah, you know, it is stressful times over here. We've got a new client, and I am not sure he's going to buy it.
To which, when Paul picks up his phone, his entire demeanor changes, and he's talking to what we can believe is his wife, who clearly doesn't know what his job is. I find this element of Paul's character really intriguing, this double life that he seems to live. I find it incredible. He also mentions girls, which confirms he has children, and Paul is American, so that means his family is in America and Paul is in Korat. Paul talks about how his company got downsized, and then when he went home to his wife and family, they drove him crazy and he couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take that normal life.
The missus, she would never understand. Like a few years back, my company started downsizing and outsourcing all of my work to third world shitholes like this, actually. And next thing I know, I'm a desk jockey. Me. Fucking hated it. I got sent home for stress leave.
Paul was someone who clearly worked very hard to build his own company, but when that company got downsized and outsourced, Paul was sat behind a desk, and going home to his family, like I say, he just couldn't take it anymore. So he decided to change his life. He decided to not take it anymore and do something crazy, do something that he would come to love, join Pagan Min, and become his #1 torturer. He also then makes a joke about how all this happens because he watched a Dr. Phil episode.
But that's when I saw him. Dr. Phil.
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you, give me $200.
Far Cry 4 really has some great pop culture references, I swear, and they have aged so well.
See how much Kanye is going for. Do you follow him on Twitter? It is gold.
Paul then walks off and the scene comes to an end. So the question stands, who had the better introduction? Well, to be honest, they both have great introductions. With Bucks we learn more about his different mannerisms and how he acts. But with Paul, we learn more about who he is and about his past and how he came to be. Both introductions, in my opinion, are great, but if I had to pick one over the other, I would slightly pick Buck's. Now, the reason for this is, one, you can't just skip Buck's intro like you can Paul, or not on accident anyway. With Paul's, you can literally accidentally walk past it. And my second reason would be because with Bucks, it feels more personal. You actually have a reason to be there and you actually already have beef with Buck, whereas Paul, you're just sort of watching it happen. So therefore, the player is not as invested in Paul's character as he would be Buck's. Now let's talk about how Buck acts throughout the parts of the game that he is in. Buck, throughout the small section of Far Cry 3 that he is in, is incredibly frustrating. He will send you on these wild goose chases trying to find this knife that he's so obsessed with, but then he'll end up showing up at the places that he shouldn't even know you're at.
What the fuck? If you knew where I was supposed to go, why didn't you just tell me?
Jason. Don't get your knickers in a twist.
How do you keep finding me?
I know. Well, you're leaving a trail of human breadcrumbs, mate.
How the
You fucker. You took your time getting here, didn't you?
This completely fucks with you because it makes you feel like Buck is just fucking with you knowing where the knife is the whole time.
You put a tracker on me, didn't you?
You have a favorite pupil.
Got him! Got him!
He often gives you over-explanational history lessons just because he feels like doing it. He also makes really strange and often sexual remarks about the player or even Keith. Keith is the person who Buck has kidnapped that we want back, our friend, and it doesn't take the player long to realise that Buck is most likely sexually abusing Keith, which just pisses us off even more.
Oh, Jason. Keith is going to be very disappointed. He looked uncomfortable last I saw him. Handle being on your own, son. Keith needs me. Right? Well, come on, ask me. What are they looking for, Buck?
No.
I should cane you for that. I really should. But you know what I won't? I'll cane Keith instead.
When you don't have his knife, he will get angry and make threats, probably knowing that you wouldn't have it at this point anyway.
No, Jason, that's not all right! It's just a little fucking knife that I asked you to get me, but you're too bloody incompetent, too fucking lazy to get it for me.
When Buck feels like he's losing power over you, he will threaten Keith's life, even more until you tell him that he is again in control.
Are you calling the shots now? Is that what you're doing? Hector, apparently I'm no longer calling the shots, so dismantle everything and split Keith open from gut to chest.
Wait!
Hold on. What was that, mate?
You're calling the shots.
Hector!
Buck pisses me off and frustrates me, even down to the weird sexual ways he sits and stands. He's just a creep.
Ending me.
I know. Well, you're leaving a trail of human breadcrumbs, mate.
But all that being said, this works incredibly for Buck's character, and it makes the player really look forward to finally dealing with him in the end. Now, I really want to talk about Paul throughout his part of Far Cry 4, but I can't really do that because you see him at the start of the game and then a couple missions later you kill him. Between first meeting Paul and then killing Paul, you don't see him again in person, you learn nothing more about his character, and you don't even hear him over the phone or a radio, so I can't talk about him, because sadly he really is given no time to shine in Far Cry 4. We have already talked about the build up to Buck's character being done perfect, so let's talk about the actual end of Buck's character. You find Buck's knife and then head to his house to retrieve Keith. Entering his home, you can see him sat, wearing nothing but a top and pants, reading a book. You give him his knife and then he gives you a key to the downstairs basement where Keith is. Buck is so obsessed with himself and these history lessons that he even gives you one on your way down to the basement.
Can you imagine getting shivved by this? It's like Shakespeare stabbing him with his quill.
You find Keith and he is in a state of complete repulsion thanks to Buck. Buck shows up and tells you and Keith that you're both not leaving.
I'd really like to show my appreciation, you know. Proper, like a man should.
You said we could leave, you fuck!
No. Actually, what I said was, Keith could leave with you, but you're not going anywhere.
We're walking through that door.
You are what I say you are. I'll take you bloody if you like. I like my meat rare.
The room transforms and you begin to fight Buck knife to knife. All throughout your fight, Buck continues to make sexual jokes, and even until the very end does.
He's some fucked up poor player.
You kill Buck in a clean and satisfying way, which not only brings closure to his character, but also brings closure to his part of the story. Killing him in the place he felt he had the most power, coming full circle. However, in the end, Keith is still left scarred and hurt, which shows just how messed up and disturbed Buck truly was. You're sent to get Paul by the Golden Path. When you go, you disguise yourself as one of Paul's hostages. You can hear Paul talking on the phone to his daughter.
That's wonderful. No, I understand. Sweetheart, I understand. I can't. I am literally walking into a meeting right now.
You watched Paul talk to his daughter in such a calm fashion while picking about at a dead Golden Path soldier.
I think I see the exact thing. Yes, of course it is shiny. Now listen, Daddy has to work, all right? So I have to go. I love you too.
Once Paul unmasks you like Scooby-Doo, you stand up and literally just knock him out.
You?
Baba Booey.
You then have a short car journey back with Paul where you can listen to him some more. In the car, Paul laughs at you for mentioning a girl who thinks her family is still alive.
Noor sends her regards. Noor? Noor? What? I mean, she thinks her family's still alive? Oh man, we killed them years ago!
And this shows we can certainly see his disconnect from the people he's killing here. The last we see or hear from Paul is when we see him begging you to give him his cell phone when it rings while he's being taken away and dragged off by the Golden Path.
I need my cell phone, man! RJ, please! Please, I need my cell phone! Get off me, you monkey fuckers! Ashley, baby, daddy's here!
Killing, or rather taking care of Paul here, I don't really feel anything. We don't know Paul, don't care or have any problems with him personally, and we don't even get a cool fight with him. In conclusion, Buck's character is handled very well. He's a threat and he has personal problems with us, the player, which makes him extremely dislikable. We also learn just the right amount about him. His character is also finished with a fun, exhilarating battle. Now Paul on the other hand has no build-up. We have no problems with him personally, and we don't really know enough about him. His ending does not feel satisfying whatsoever either. Paul is a character who is completely and utterly underutilized throughout Far Cry 4, and it's such a shame. One of my favourite parts of Paul's character is when you're in the car with him, and you can see this weird family personality mixed with his murderous side, and I think it's a really good part of Paul's character, and a part of Far Cry 4. But it's wasted because Paul is never seen again 2 minutes later. Paul is truly a victim to not having enough screen time, and I think for all these reasons it just shows how much better Buck is as a character. Now let me start by saying yes, I know that Hoyt really isn't a side villain, he's more of a main one, but I had to pick a support villain slash side villain out of him, Citra or Vaas, and I feel like he fits the role the most. Vaas, while he's not the end villain to Far Cry 3, he's basically agreed on as the main villain of Far Cry 3 and the most interesting. And then throughout the whole of Far Cry 3 you have Citra, who's manipulating the player and making Jason fall into a mad descent of craziness. And then she's also the end villain of the game, so I'd say she fits a main villain role higher than say Hoyt. Also, you lot already agreed to this and I wanted to make a video on Hoyt anyway, so I'm doing it. The first time you meet, or rather hear Hoyt, is actually over the phone. And while you personally don't talk to him, you do hear him have a conversation with Vaas, and it's made very clear that Hoyt is a powerful man. Vaas is someone who throughout Far Cry 3 shows little to no shame and exactly no fear. Until you hear him on this phone call where he's a lot more submissive to Hoyt than he is anyone in the game, and when Hoyt tells Vaas to shut up, he does very quickly.
Mother, she's my sister. She's inking that white boy. I don't give a fuck about your family. It is by my grace that your head isn't impaled on the antenna of my car. Therefore, I would like it if you gave a fuck about Jason Brody. Okay, Hoyt. Okay. All right. Fantastic.
This shows just how powerful Hoyt is, as he may have been the one to turn Vaas to insanity, and also he's the one who keeps all these ruthless pirates in check. It's clear from just this phone call alone that Hoyt does what he wants when he wants, and he's in complete control of his people. We then see Hoyt in person when we go undercover as one of his new recruits, and this is our first proper introduction to Hoyt as a character. We are standing in a crowd of other new soldiers watching Hoyt give a speech. Hoyt begins his speech by talking about business and brings up a story about his father.
Not going to lie, we're all here to make a buck. But it's the happiness of my people that gets me up each morning. My father, rest his soul, was a diamond miner.
Then he goes through what he calls the rules of his company.
There are only 3 company rules you have to follow.
Weeks, and I go home.
First, protect my product. You can fuck them, boys, but be gentle. Second, kill any native on sight. Finally, all profits go to me.
He then brutally burns a man alive to show what will happen to you if you break any of these rules.
Of these rules?
I need
I roast you in the furnace until your skin crackles like chicken.
This introduction is fantastic. Hoyt comes across as a vindictive, cold businessman who once again seems to have complete control of everyone and everything around him. He shows not only how smart he is, but also how threatening he is, but at the same time what good he will do for you if you are loyal to him. This intro is not a personal one to the player, but is made personal when Hoyt says that anyone who kills Jason Brody, you the player, will be given a private island.
Your very own island! For the head of Jason Brody!
Making this speech feel that little bit more connected to you the player. This is legitimately a fantastic introduction to a character. In Far Cry 4, we first meet Yuma in prison. However, she doesn't really say much except act like a strong female villain woman. However, our true introduction starts when we're drugged and begin to see her. We wake up seeing her half naked for some reason, okay, and she's clearly fucking with our head. We pretty much get a whole level with Yuma as an introduction, and we learn a lot. She uses drugs to get into the player's head, and we find out that she was, or rather is, quite the patriot to Karat.
People who carved this city into the rock were strong. Followers of Kalanag. They were a great civilization, unlike the pathetic rabble Kairat is today.
We also find out she hates AJ's mum, and she thinks that she made Pagan a weaker leader.
Pagan was my king. I would have done anything for him. But then your mother led him astray. I tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. And his love for Ashwari eventually broke him.
We can see her deep trust and affection towards Pagan, but how much she hates and truly hates AJ's mum and now you. In fact, the only reason why she doesn't just kill you is because Pagan told her not to, and she is extremely loyal to him.
I've seen him. He's still breathing. Now go away. I've got work to do.
Fine. But I want him alive, with all the bits that count intact. One last thing.
To be honest, this is an absolutely great intro for Yuma. We learn loads about her, and we even learn why she hates AJ and how much she trusts and loves Pagan and is truly a patriot to Karat. The intro feels very personal, and you could make a strong argument that it's better than Hoyt's. Now, throughout Hoyt's section of Far Cry, we are always hearing about him and seeing the direct consequences of his actions. At one point, we end up having a meeting with Hoyt as we impress him so much we're allowed to do so. Hoyt talks to you, reading what he thinks you are, and then goes on to explain why he uses fear as a motivator.
And you're a floater. You jump from job to job and never commit.
Nothing's satisfied me yet.
Well, do you know the real secret to keeping employees happy? Fear.
Hoyt talks about his business plan to you, and you truly get a sense of how smart he is.
Look at American industry. They put a 1, 2, 3 on a contact lens, so when I'm going to place it in my eye, I can tell whether it's inside out. Now, why 1, 2, 3 and not ABC? That way they can export it around the globe and straight to me. And guess what happens when I'm wearing it?
You don't see the 1, 2, 3?
Isn't that fucking amazing? That's progress right there. That is civilization.
He then blows up a non-existing boat and then gives you a new job. In just this brief meeting alone, we can see just how in control Hoyt is and how smart he truly is. I truly believe that Hoyt thinks he is just a businessman, nothing more, nothing less, simple as. Once you interrogate your brother, Hoyt approaches you once more, offering you a game of poker to congratulate you on your skills. We don't actually see Hoyt in person too much in his actual section, however, we are always hearing about him and knowing what he's doing, which not only makes him incredibly smart, but it also makes him seem incredibly dangerous. I also love the idea that Hoyt from the start knows that you're a spy and is just fucking with you, forcing you to torture your own brother out of his own enjoyment.
Des, I want you to find out who he is, who his benefactors are, then I want you to beat him until he can't stand up. I'll send Sam with you.
All right.
Oh, I'll keep my eye on the camera feed. I so rarely get to watch another professional at work.
And also, there are some really clever foreshadowing bits with Hoyt.
Yeah, join me for a celebratory cohiba. That was quite a show down there.
I don't really smoke.
Oh, you're concerned about cancer. That's goose shit. Cancer won't be what kills you.
Nice shot!
Now, much like Paul, I would love to talk about Yuma throughout Far Cry 4, or at least throughout her section in Far Cry 4, but I can't really do that because you see her in her intro mission, and then a few missions later you kill her in her end mission. You and your friend Sam come up with a plan to take down Hoyt when he invites you to a game of poker. The game feels off, but nothing is too out of the usual.
What a job. Poker. Ask anyone on the street and they'll call it a game of chance. Or talk to Sam here and he'll say it's about bluffing. Weren't you, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not, is it? It's about keeping you playing until the house collects.
However, not too long into the game, it all goes wrong. Hoyt gets up from his chair and stabs Sam in the neck, killing him slowly. Hoyt reveals that he knows who you are and tells you to keep on playing.
House rules. Ah, look at that. We have the same cards. So let's raise the stakes a little, shall we? Foster, Jason Brody, whatever your name is, it slipped my mind. How stupid do you think I am? We should keep playing. Dealer's on the left, right?
At this moment, the game becomes intense, and I mean very intense. The options being presented even saying bet life. It's at this moment where you can truly see just how smart Hoyt is and how he's played you. Hoyt cuts one of your fingers off and says he will continue to do so for every game you lose, making you have a slow and painful death. But it's at this moment when you enter a battle with Hoyt. Hoyt tells you he takes no pleasure in this, and I actually believe him. He truly wanted to work with you, but you have given him no choice now.
You know, you could have joined me. Every kill would have been rewarded with money. Fuck you. I take no pleasure in this. Really, I don't.
Throughout the fight, Hoyt talks about just how disappointed he is in you.
Very disappointed in you, Jason. You haven't checked up on your little brother, Riley. Where is he? Don't worry. I sold him to someone very special in Yemen. He likes them young. I'm gonna kill you. I have very powerful friends who will hunt you down. They won't find anything left.
This fight is extremely intense, and the way you kill Hoyt is satisfying and brings his character to a great end.
Double kill. Triple kill.
Much like Buck's character, you kill Hoyt in the place he's known to have the most control, a game of poker.
He's the best poker player I've ever met.
What an incredible end to an incredibly good villain. When you go to kill Yuma, you are drugged by her and then begin to hallucinate. She's in your head and she is furious that you are here to kill her.
Pathetic! Pagan sets a boy like you to kill me? After everything I did for him! Before your horrible mother came along, he was fearless. Nobody could stand up to him. Then your mother. Your mother.
Much like before, she rants and raves with anger at your mother, talking about how she ruined Pagan and turned him into a weak leader. Eventually, you find her once again. She's half naked for some reason. Okay. But AJ, being the little pussy bitch simp that he is, falls into her tricks of trying to woo my lady and then ends up having a boss fight with her, which is actually really different and quite fun for Far Cry 4. Killing her feels satisfying and overall the level is fun, if not made a little bit annoying by the boss fight. This is a great send-off for Yuma. However, I do have a problem with it, and that problem being that I wish there was more build up to her death. This death could be argued to be as good and as satisfying as Hoyt's send-off, but I just wish they put more time into establishing her as a character. And I also wish we got to know that little bit more about her as a character in general. Sadly, the conclusion to this video is very simple. I could sit and talk about how I feel that Hoyt and Buck are just better characters than Paul and Yuma, or how they feel more personal to the player, or how they fit into the game's overall story better. But while those things may be true, when it comes down to it, Far Cry 3's side villains are better than Far Cry 4's because of one thing and one thing only. That one simple thing is they were given more time to shine. Don't get me wrong, Paul and Yuma are not perfect characters, but they could have been. They could have been fixed to the standard that Far Cry 3 left if they were only given more time to shine. If Paul and Yuma were as well established as characters as Buck and Hoyt were in Far Cry 3, then they could have been just as good. But sadly, they weren't given enough time to shine. And that is simply why Far Cry 3's side villains are better than Far Cry 4's. I hope you guys all enjoyed that video. If you did, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe with the bell on. Once again, a massive thank you to anyone who supported the channel or subscribed because of my videos. I just really appreciate it, guys, and it means a lot. The next video will be coming out in around 2 weeks, so enjoy that, and it will be an ultimate review. I'm not going to say what on yet, but you guys will really enjoy it. I love it. It'll be great. In the meantime, make sure to comment down below on this video what you want to see this channel doing next, and also be sure to watch my other Far Cry content, Fallout content, character analyzations, and my ultimate review of Still Wakes the Deep. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. Stay safe, guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.